Hello and welcome to another episode of Navigating Life as an Immigrant Woman, where we share stories, tips, and insights, challenging you to expand your thinking and leverage your immigrant advantage. I am your host, Ifi Ngudike, the author of The Successful Immigrant Woman, 8 Transformational Strategies to Build Confidence, Be Empowered, and Achieve Success as an Immigrant Woman. If you are on that journey of becoming a successful woman, you are in the right place. Just grab a cup of your favorite beverage and listen in. Welcome to episode 16. Today we're going to talk about something I know everybody's very familiar with: misunderstandings. Who has not gone through misunderstandings? And you know how very frustrating it can be when you feel misunderstood. So one of the frustrations that come along with being in a new place, like a new city, a new country, a new neighborhood, a new church or workplace, is that feeling that you may not yet belong fully in this new place just because of the high frequency of misunderstandings that go on. You say something, others understand something else, they are saying something else, and you are understanding a very different thing. Very frustrating, right? I know. It's unlikely, though, that you can avoid these misunderstandings right away because cultural differences cannot really be made to disappear. However, the thing with misunderstandings is that there are strategies that you can apply and you will begin to get different results. And this is not just only when you feel misunderstood, it's also about you understanding other people. So in today's episode, I'm going to share a few of those strategies that have worked for me, and I hope it works for you as well. The very first one, and the one that I think we are all guilty of, is just avoid assumptions. Really, I know that for myself, I find it really annoying and frustrating when I'm trying to explain something or I'm sharing something, and interestingly, the person that or the people that I am having this conversation with have already come up with a conclusion that is so very different from what I'm trying to say. I know we all do this. Sometimes we're having different conversations in our head. Sometimes we look at how some people are. We are creating all these stereotypes based on where somebody is from or how they look, and that doesn't let us really listen and know where they're coming from in what they're saying. We just make up our own assumptions, and we actually work with these assumptions. Very frustrating, whether that happens to you or you're doing it to somebody else. So first strategy is try your very best and avoid assumptions. How would you do that? Be open, be curious. It's really interesting what happens when we come to the table, when we come into relationships and conversations without those expectations and assumptions. When we are so open and curious, it's interesting what we will learn, because when we come up with those assumptions, we have blocked a lot of things. The second strategy is to use clear language and ask for clarifications too. You know, when I lived in Italy, when I first came to Italy and I couldn't speak Italian, I had to find ways to communicate. I understand that, when you're not proficient in a language, oftentimes you have this tendency to either continue to explain and explain and explain, and we're rushing through things, and we still haven't made any sense or much sense to the person we are communicating with. Something that I found powerful and that really works for me is to slow down. There's no need to rush. Slow down and be very clear. That tendency of speaking very quickly, maybe because we're afraid, like it's that fear or that urge to think that the more we talk, the more words that are coming out of our mouth, it's going to help somebody understand. It doesn't really do that. In fact, it's just creating more frustration for both yourself and the person you're trying to communicate to. So take it easy, slow down, and be clear with what you're saying. When I'm not going to say that you're going to be 100% proficient in using the language, you don't have to be 100% perfect in speaking the language. What is going to happen when you're clear and when you slow down is that person is going to mirror you, and in some ways they're going to actually start actively listening and focus, and they will pick out the context and meaning of what you're saying, even if you're not 100% proficient in the language. What's the third strategy? This is really, really key, and I know it's challenging to do this when you're frustrated or when the same kind of things, you keep experiencing the same kind of things when you're trying to communicate. Just be patient with yourself and with others. Communicating across cultures is usually quite a challenge, and it does take some time. It's not something that you can just get through very quickly. So be patient and be willing to seek to understand, because when you do this, you will be rewarded. I would say in the long run, but really, if you think about it, it won't be too long before you start reaping the results of your patience and your willingness to seek to understand. Lastly, build relationships with diverse peoples. I can't even count the benefits of doing this. There is so much to gain when you build relationships with diverse peoples. You break down barriers and just continue to improve on communication. Continue to learn so much just by building those relationships. You learn so much, and the more you work with diverse people, the more you begin to see things differently as well. You begin to challenge some of the things that you think are the way things should go. Cultural understanding is an ongoing process. It requires continuous learning. It requires empathy and a willingness to be open and respectful. So, give yourself and others lots of grace and love, especially when you're in this place where you feel that you are being misunderstood and you feel like you don't belong yet. You will get there. All the best. Thank you for tuning in and listening to today's episode. If anything we talked about today speaks to you, subscribe to this channel and get your copy of my book, The Successful Immigrant Woman. Lastly, remember to take care of you and give yourself grace as you navigate life.